Hi, I'm Rich.
And I'm Tina.
If there's one thing we've learned in over 20 years of marriage,
It's that some days you'll feel like killing your husband.
and some days you'll feel like killing your wife.
Welcome to Love, Marry, Kill.
Hey, Tina.
Hey, Rich.
How are you today?
I am fabulous today. How are you?
I am doing great.
It is a beautiful day here in Southeast Michigan.
It's beautiful but blustery. Very, very windy.
Yeah, I like a windy day.
Yeah, it's cool.
Do you want to just talk about the weather for an hour?
I thought we could.
I heard we might get some snow by next Monday.
Really?
Yeah, it's hard to believe.
It is hard to
It
believe.
would probably just be flurries, nothing serious, because it's been pretty warm. Oh, do you want to stop talking about the weather now?
Oh, we could keep talking about the weather. I think people love hearing us talk about the weather. We could talk about the time change. We had a time change last weekend.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Well, crazy? I'm not sure if that's the right word for it. It's super annoying. I think most people really hate the time change, especially if you have young kids. My heart goes out to people with, younger kids, because I remember how brutal that was.
I know. You think it's
and
only
old
an
people
hour.
like you, because
And
it
old
seems to really be affecting you.
Yeah, it does. I'm not a big fan of it either.
Yeah. So the episode that we are doing today, it's the first time this has ever happened on Love, Marry, Kill. I started this case this summer when it was kind of a breaking news case, and I was like, yeah, I'm not feeling it. And I put it on a shelf. I do that actually. I have done that several times where I'll start a case, get like a third into it. I'm like, oh, I'm not into it. And I end up dropping it.
Yeah.
But you picked this one up.
Yep,
so
I sure did.
Some of the research was mine.
Yeah, thank you for your work on it. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you did a lot more work on it though.
I did. But you always seem to have like multiple cases that you're working on at once, where
Mm-hmm.
I'm more like I work on one case at a time, and then I can't even think about another case until I finish that one case.
Yeah. Well, one of our brains works better than the other. So
I wouldn't say better, just different for sure.
I feel like I have to be working ahead all the time.
Mhm.
Like right now I'm working on a Patreon case, but I'm also working on a regular case. This is really boring. Let's move on.
I don't know how you do it. Are you happy now that at least one sports season is over?
You said that kind of like, are you happy now that once
Well, I know it was hard.
Here's
on
what
you.
has happened that's slightly frustrating. In general, I don't care. You watch your sports, have at it. If it makes you happy, I'm happy for you. But the thing that kind of stinks is the Lions have gotten better, so they're tending to play on like
Monday night
or Sunday night, and U of M also has had some night games.
A ton of Saturday night games.
Right. So
year.
it seems like.
And then the World Series is always at night too. So yeah.
So that was kind of like, it was Halloween season, and we really only watched one scary Halloween movie together, and I was a little bummed about that.
That is a little bit of a bummer. Well, that's why I said it like that, because I know it's been a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate your patience.
Okay, well, I'm famished. Do you have a snack for me?
I do, but I'm really ashamed to say you're not going to like this.
Oh, it's okay. You have gone out of your way.
So
really?
Every time
like raw asparagus or something?
No, every time I do a case from South Carolina, which is where this case is, I Google like snacks from South Carolina.
Yeah.
And this snack consistently comes up, and I've never done it before. And I finally was like, you know what? I'm just going to do this.
Is it a crab boil or?
No, it's boiled peanuts.
Oh.
And I didn't make them like homemade because you have to use like raw peanuts or green peanuts, and you can't find those. So I bought a can of boiled peanuts.
Oh, okay.
But I brought a backup snack as well.
Okay. Well, I have these Skippy peanut butter bites that have been sitting here since last week. I could always eat.
I have the boiled peanuts, but I brought a backup snack, which is Hostess Twinkies for chocolate lovers.
Why wouldn't you just open with the chocolate Twinkies?
I know, that's going to be a lot
But
better.
you feel obligated to do the boiled peanuts
I
because
feel like
that
we should
is
try.
a snack that is featured in South Carolina.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm happy to try them. I love peanuts.
All right. I think I already know based on your reaction, but what did you think about the boiled peanuts?
Those were horrible. I'm not sure who was like, let's make a nice peanut, like mushy. It tasted like I don't know, like a bean or something.
Yeah, I'm guessing they're a lot better when you buy them like from a street vendor in South Carolina or something like that. But yeah, those were not good at all.
No.
How about the chocolate Twinkies?
They're pretty good. I don't know if it was like the taste of the peanut was still in my mouth, but it tasted a little off to me too.
Yeah, I did not love them either. I thought
Really?
they were
That's surprising
definitely,
because you love a Twinkie.
yeah, they were definitely better than the boiled peanuts, but
Well,
not
can
as
you
good.
explain the boiled peanuts that you bought? They're in a
Yeah, they
can?
come in a can that's called Peanut Patch Boiled Peanuts, and they're like in liquid. And I warmed it up because it says you can eat them right out of the can, but you also can warm them up.
Well, we will not be eating those again.
No,
Maybe if we went to South Carolina, they'd be better. I have seen a guy in Ann Arbor. He sells peanuts. I think
oh, that's right. He's
he's
got a big like sign by the side of his
yeah. It's on
house.
what road is it? Dexter Ann Arbor Road.
Yeah,
Yeah, because everyone knows Dexter Ann Arbor Road. But yeah, maybe we should
we'll swing
stop
by
by there
there.
sometime.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your effort. By the way, we hardly had any trick or treaters. We're recording this on Monday, November 3rd. Hardly had any, not hardly had any, but we had like probably a third of what we usually
Yeah,
get.
not a
So
lot.
curious if you guys out there had fewer trick or treaters too. We have so much candy left. It's not good.
No, it's not good. How about we get to today's case?
Fabulous idea.
Today's case is a recommendation from our friend Chrissy. Thank you, Chrissy, for the recommendation. And I do want to say before we start that this episode contains discussion of suicide, so please listen with care. On the evening of May 20th, 2015, at 7:15 p.m., a panicked man called 911 in Berkeley County, South Carolina. "Please hurry," he begged. "My wife tried to kill herself. I'm doing CPR." When the dispatcher asked why he believed that his wife had tried to kill herself, the man seemed baffled, saying, "She put herself around a hose or something. I don't know." The caller was 45-year-old Michael Colucci. The woman he was desperately trying to save, or claimed to be, was his wife, 38-year-old Sara Lynn Colucci. When first responders arrived, they found Sara lying on the ground near a point where a 6-foot-tall chain-link fence met the side of a small warehouse. The building was behind the Gold Standard, the cash for gold store that the couple owned together. A garden hose hung loosely from a reel on the wall next to Sara, looping over the top of the fence post. Michael told officers that Sara had used it to hang herself. But something felt off. Sara's body was already cold, with signs of lividity, meaning she had been dead for some time. And Michael's story? It didn't make sense. He said he'd been sitting in the car just 20 feet away while Sara stepped behind the building to pee. It was still light out. He would have had a clear view. So how could he have missed it? And what about the fresh cut on his lip, which he blamed on CPR? As investigators dug deeper, more questions surfaced about money, about their volatile marriage, and about what really happened behind that warehouse fence. Was this the tragic suicide of a troubled woman, or the deliberate murder of a wife by her husband? Sara Lynn Moore was born in July 1976 to Barbara and James Ronald Moore, better known as Ronnie. She grew up in Goose Creek, South Carolina, just outside of Charleston. Friends described Sara as sweet, loving, and happy, but also demanding and fiery when crossed, a little bit of a firecracker. She was strong-willed and never hesitated to stand up for what she believed was right. At Stratford High School in Goose Creek, Sara was known for her bubbly personality, vivacious energy, and natural charm. She was a girly girl who dressed well and was always perfectly put together. Friends remember her as sassy, quick with a comeback, and possessed with a dry sense of humor. Her senior year, she was voted most mischievous.
Some say mischievous, some say mischievous.
I think it's mischievous.
I think it's mischievous.
We didn't even Google it, so we're just having this debate live on air without the benefit of a definitive source.
It's okay. You can just keep going.
We'll just agree to disagree.
Sure.
Sara married young, just 19, and that marriage lasted less than a year. Soon after, she reconnected with an old high school boyfriend, Michael Vieira. The two lived together for several years before marrying in the early 2000s. Michael worked as a contractor while Sara built a career in real estate. In October 2003, they welcomed a daughter, Bishop. By 2007, Sara's parents had helped her and Michael buy a brand new home in the Foxbank neighborhood, a growing community built around a 67-acre lake with parks, a dozen ponds, and a resort-style pool. The house itself was more than 2,600 square feet, with 3 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms.
Super cute house. I remember looking up pictures of it.
It was, and Sara took great pride in her home. Friends said that it always was beautifully decorated, spotless, and a reflection of her eye for detail and style. In May 2007, 32-year-old Michael Vieira attended a Harley-Davidson rally near Myrtle Beach, about 2.5 hours from home. He and his friends were partying, taking LSD, along with some cocaine and marijuana. Before long, Michael became agitated and erratic, talking about Jesus, speaking in tongues, and acting violent and irrational. Alarmed, his friends called Sara, who told them to let him walk it off. Early the next morning, Michael's body was discovered alongside a rural roadway by a newspaper delivery driver. He was wearing no shirt, no shoes, and only one sock. He had been stabbed 27 times. A small black pocket knife lay on the ground beside him. He had $1,000 of cash on him, along with a vial of cocaine. An autopsy determined that he died from multiple stab wounds, several of which penetrated his chest cavity, lacerating his heart and left lung. He had no defensive wounds, and the only blood found on the knife was his own. Toxicology tests showed alcohol, 0.05%, LSD, cocaine, and marijuana in his system. Investigators found no evidence of foul play by anyone other than the victim. The death was ruled accidental, and the case was closed. I wasn't able to find a lot more detail about his death. I did read that some people thought it was suspicious. He had 27 stab wounds, which seems a little unusual for someone
that's how many Ellen Greenberg had, too, which is really strange.
It is, yeah. But I don't believe his death was suspicious. I don't believe there was anyone else involved. I think he just took too many drugs and was hallucinating, potentially had some other problems.
So you believe he stabbed himself?
I do, yes. Michael left behind 30-year-old Sara and their 3-year-old daughter, Bishop. Sara was devastated by Michael's death, but she had a young child who needed her. Not one to wallow in self-pity, she worked hard to rebuild her life and create stability for Bishop. Sara was hesitant to date again after losing Michael Vieira, but in 2009, a friend insisted she meet an acquaintance, another Michael, jeweler Michael Colucci.
Michael Colucci was born Michael Frederick Antonio in January 1970 to John and Doris Antonio, who together owned a beauty school in New Jersey. Michael was their second child, following his older brother, Johnny. When Michael was just 4 years old, tragedy struck. His father, John, died at age 36. A few years later, Doris remarried a jeweler named Ivo Francesco Colucci. Ivo had emigrated from Naples, Italy at age 18. Coming from a long line of jewelers, he opened his first U.S. store in New York City in 1959. Ivo had 5 children from his first marriage, but after meeting Doris, he divorced his wife and started a new life with Doris and her 2 young sons. In 1975, Ivo, Doris, Johnny, Michael, and 3 of Ivo's children moved to South Carolina's Low Country, where Ivo soon established himself as one of the region's leading jewelers with his store, Colucci's Jewelry Factory. South Carolina is divided into 4 distinct regions: the Upstate, the Midlands, the Pee and the Low Country. The Pee takes its name from the river that runs through it, which was itself named for the indigenous tribe that lived along the river. The Low Country refers to the southeastern corner of the state, stretching across a dozen counties below what's known as the fall line, the point where the hard rock of the Piedmont gives way to the soft sandy soil of the coastal plain. Much of the Low Country sits only about 270 feet above sea level. That low elevation, along with its southern latitude, is what gives the region its name. But geography alone doesn't define the Low Country. What makes it truly distinctive is its beauty, a landscape shaped by salt marshes, tidal creeks, and barrier islands that fringe the Atlantic coast. Live oaks draped in Spanish moss, palmetto trees swaying in the breeze, and dense maritime forests give the area its unmistakable character. Bordered by the ocean and the Savannah River, the Low Country is a place where history, nature, and culture intertwine, and its setting plays a quiet but powerful role in our story.
We haven't spent much time in the Low Country, but we did go to Hilton Head a few years ago, and definitely fond memories as a great vacation and beautiful place.
Really beautiful. We went to Savannah, too, during that trip, and it's just, our country is so beautiful. There's so many unique terrains, and it's just wild to me that you drive a few hundred miles south and it's a completely different terrain.
Yeah.
We kind of fell in love with the area.
Yeah, we really did.
Yeah, it was just so nice to be right by the ocean. And
other than the alligators.
But let's get back to Ivo Colucci. Known for his integrity, Ivo built a reputation as a fair and honest businessman. His motto was simple: you make a living, you don't have to make a killing. What do you think he meant there?
I think he just meant that to be a businessman, you don't have to be cutthroat. You don't have to be a jerk. And I think he seems like he was a very good businessman in terms of caring about people and not trying to take advantage of people.
And his family came first.
Yeah.
Outside of jewelry, Ivo invested in real estate, buying condemned houses and renovating them into apartments that he later rented out. At one point, he owned as many as 20 rental properties. Although Ivo never formally adopted Michael, the young man took the Colucci name when he turned 18, perhaps an effort to associate himself with his stepfather's respected reputation. By then, Michael had decided to follow in Ivo's footsteps and become a jeweler himself. In 1997, at age 27, Michael married his first wife, Camilla. 3 years later, he opened his own jewelry store in Somerville, South Carolina, Colucci's Jewelers. The couple eventually had a daughter, Providence Milan Colucci.
I believe she went by Milan.
But within a few years of Milan's birth, the marriage fell apart. In October 2008, Michael filed for divorce. It was a bitter and protracted battle. More than 95 court filings, restraining orders, mandatory drug testing, and a contentious custody fight. The divorce was finalized in December 2010, with Michael awarded sole custody of Milan. In April 2005, while still married to Camilla, an incident occurred between Michael and a friend named Curtis Reed. Curtis was at Michael's house one afternoon, the two relaxing and watching TV. At some point, Curtis got up to grab a drink from the kitchen. Michael, who had wrestled in high school, snuck up behind him, put him in a chokehold, and lifted him off his feet. Then he threw Curtis to the ground, fracturing his left leg and ankle. It's unclear what led to the incident, though it appears Michael may have been goofing around or showing off.
I can't remember the last time I was like roughhousing with another guy like that.
Well, you used to with our son, but then he grew up. Curtis didn't have medical insurance and racked up about $45,000 in hospital bills. To avoid a lawsuit, Michael agreed to make regular $1,000 payments. Over the next 3.5 years, he made about 16 of those payments, but then stopped. Curtis eventually sued him for the remaining balance. The end of the payments to Curtis coincided with Michael's finances beginning to spiral. In May 2005, he and a business partner, along with an investment company, took out a $450,000 loan to buy 18 acres of land in Charleston County. It's unclear what the plan was for that property. In October 2006, Michael and Camilla took out a $1.5 million mortgage on a waterfront home. Just over a year later, the loan company sued them, alleging they hadn't made a payment in almost 6 months. In May 2008, the couple secured another loan, this time for $550,000, to purchase a separate parcel of land. But within a year, that bank also sued them for failing to make the required balloon payment. This situation always stresses me out in our stories when you know these people are in over their head.
I just don't know how people can live like that.
I know.
It's so stressful.
So by the time Michael and Camilla's marriage collapsed, they were being sued by 2 banks, and Michael was being sued by his former friend, Curtis Reed. They were overextended and underwater. This was the situation Michael Colucci found himself in when he met Sara Moore in 2009. Michael and Sarah's mutual friend was determined to set them up. He would call Sara and ask, "Has he called you yet?" She'd say no, and he'd immediately call Michael to say, "You need to call her." Eventually, Michael did. Their first conversation lasted a long time, and by the end of it, they'd agreed to talk again soon. Over the next several weeks, they spoke on the phone occasionally. Both were busy, so the calls were short but warm, easy, natural, and always ending with a promise to talk again. After months of these conversations, they finally arranged to meet for dinner one Friday evening in downtown Charleston. Still uncertain about dating, Sara had a friend on standby in case she needed a quick exit. But as she would recall later, "When I saw him for the first time, it was love at first sight. It was the best date I have ever gone on, and it felt as if he and I had known each other for years. I told my mom the next day, as well as several people who asked about the date, that he and I will get married. He is my one and always will be." Sara's daughter, Bishop, and Michael's daughter, Milan, just 16 months apart in age, rounded out the new family. Michael and Milan moved into Sara's home in Fox Bank, And a year later, on June 24th, 2011, Sara and Michael Colucci were married at the historic French Huguenot Church in Charleston. We'll be back after a break.
At the time of their marriage, Michael ran 2 jewelry stores in the Somerville area. The couple soon began running the business together, even converting a loft in one of the stores into a playroom to keep their 2 young daughters entertained while they worked. In a 2012 interview with Charleston Living magazine, Sara said, "I love coming to work, being with my husband and having the flexibility to have my children come here. It's a real blessing." Not long after the wedding, Michael legally adopted Bishop as his daughter, though neither he nor Sara told her parents that he had done so. The couple later purchased a new property on North Main Street just outside of Somerville. It wasn't a jewelry store, but more of a warehouse that they used for storage and as a place where people could sell gold. They called it the Gold Standard. The signs painted on the front windows advertised "Expert Gold Buyers" and "More dollars for your gold." The plan was for this to be Sara's business to run. The property consisted of a white-painted cinder block building in front that served as the storefront, attached to a larger warehouse in the back. On the right side of the front building were doors marked men's and ladies. Beside it, a narrow driveway led to the rear building, secured by a chain-link fence and gate. This was the location where, just a few years later, Sara Colucci would lose her life.
These doors that you described, was that a separate entrance for men and women, or was that a restroom?
Those were 2 restrooms that were in the front, and that will become relevant later.
Okay.
But I believe that Michael and Sara didn't have the keys to those restrooms because there was also a restroom in the warehouse in back, which they did have the keys to.
Okay.
Ivo Colucci, who had retired to Key West, wasn't happy with how Michael was handling the family legacy. The Colucci name carried weight in the Charleston area, and Ivo felt that Michael's business decisions were tarnishing that reputation. He had never supported Michael's choice to open a second store, and he strongly disagreed with the decision to launch the Gold Standard. As the business expanded, Ivo's original jewelry store began to struggle. Still holding an ownership stake, Ivo came out of retirement to help restore it to stable footing. I think Ivo and Michael never really got along very well. And I think when we talked earlier about Ivo's business philosophy of making a living, not making a killing, I think he was very different from Michael.
Michael wanted to make a killing.
Yeah, exactly. Michael's financial troubles, which had begun years earlier, only deepened after his marriage to Sara. The expansion stretched their resources thin, and cash flow became a growing problem. The couple fell behind on their mortgage and property taxes. Sara even admitted to a neighbor that their electricity and water had been cut off at times because they couldn't keep up with the bills. They also fell behind on tuition payments at Northwood Academy, the private school that their daughters attended. By the end of the 2014-2015 school year, they received a do not return notice. In response, the Coluccis sued Northwood Academy for negligence, claiming the school had mistakenly shared information about their financial situation with another family. Not long before she died, Sara confided in her mother, Barbara Moore, about how bad things had gotten. Still, she told her mom that Michael was working on a major land deal, and if it came through, she believed all of their financial troubles would finally disappear. Alongside their worsening financial troubles, Sara and Michael's marriage had begun to deteriorate. Michael's casual drug use became more frequent, and by 2014, Sara was feeling unsafe, especially when he was high. She called 911 twice that year and increasingly leaned on her parents for support and for childcare. Sara had her own struggles. She had battled depression ever since the death of her second husband, Michael Vieira, and she had been diagnosed with ADHD and post-traumatic stress disorder. Her depression often intensified in May, around the anniversary of Vieira's death. Under psychiatric care, she was prescribed Adderall for ADHD, Xanax for anxiety, and Deserel, or Trazodone, for depression. But she also struggled with alcohol abuse and occasionally used cocaine with Michael. When she drank, friends said she could become volatile, picking fights to provoke him. Her mother described her bluntly. When Sara drank, she was the biggest, baddest, meanest thing that there was.
And those drugs that she was taking, like none of those are to be taken with alcohol, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So she was really asking for trouble.
Yep. In the weeks leading up to May 20th, 2015, Sara's text messages reveal a relationship in turmoil. Most are messages that she sent to Michael with occasional replies from him. They show a woman swinging between anger, desperation, and exhaustion. April 22nd. Don't come back here. I don't need your shit another night. I'm going with Karen to see her attorney tomorrow. Enough is enough for me. Get drunk and bleed out of your ass. To death. I'm not playing games with you anymore. Our marriage is over. Go away. And the next day, April 23rd, I already know that Bishop and I will have to go to a women's shelter because you're not going to leave. I hope you're happy with the way you found me and the person you have molded me into with your controlling ways. Later that same day, she texted, tell Camilla to never contact me again. Enjoy the house I built. By the way, the house is in pre-foreclosure status. My parents are not going to allow that to happen, but they're not going to allow you to live there either. Think hard and play your cards right, Michael. Game on. So if you recall, her parents actually owned the house that they lived in. They were supposed to be making the mortgage payments on it, but it was still in her parents' name. On May 1st, she texted, I would prefer you move out because we don't fuck. Kissing you makes me nauseated, and you and I are nothing alike. You ruined my life, but you won't ruin Bishop's. I really don't like you and hope you die of a heart attack. Later that night, she sent a flurry of messages. You are the biggest joke in Charleston after all. She sent that same text 7 times in a row, then followed with, and that makes me the biggest joke in Charleston's wife. On May 5th, Sara texted, I am tired of being berated for what you have tried to turn me into. You are a problem, but not mine anymore. Stupid bastard. Paid Connie lately? Paid anyone lately? I hate you. I will leave with the kids, but I need the keys. Michael replied, have you? I'm assuming he meant, have you paid anyone lately? Open the house. I will gladly give you the keys. Sara says, I will leave with the kids, but I need the keys now. If you think I'm playing some drunk-ass man's game, you are wrong. Michael says, you can have the keys. I never said otherwise. Sara replies, Michael, I am so sad that you would rather be right than have a family. Good luck to you. I'm filing for divorce. You got what you asked for. Another failed marriage that wasn't your fault, and another business down the tubes. The next day, their tone briefly softened. Sara asked, how's it going? Michael replied about a property deal that he was working on. Sara texted, let's keep our fingers crossed. And after a few more exchanges, Michael wrote, I love you. And Sara responded, that's sweet. That's exactly the kind of response you want when you text someone, I love you, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or when you tell someone.
I can't wait to text you that next time you text me, I love you.
On May 11th, I hate you. The only thing you close in your life is your mouth. Enjoy getting fucked. I want out. Now. I am leaving tonight. I want a divorce. Period.
Aw.
When you read some of these texts, I'm just like, I don't know how you can send a text like that and come back from that, and like the next day be, how's it going?
I think most couples have some ugly fights more often than we do.
I guess
We're
so,
not
but-
perfect, but we really don't fight very much.
Yeah, but just saying things in a text like, I want a divorce, period. Like,
Yeah.
it.
Well, they're both under the influence of drugs, too.
Yeah, I think that probably has something to do with it. So 2 days before her death, May 18th, she texts, you need to leave. I don't love you like I did before. You are less. I need to be happy. Goodbye, freak. But later that night, her tone flipped. Baby, I don't want any more fighting, please. I'm begging you to forgive me. Please, I am sick. I can't do it anymore. Our fighting is my fault. I'm sorry. Please, please forgive me. I'm begging you. Michael replied to that text, I never had anything but love and compassion. I can't bring back the one you love. You can have any pool boy or girl you want. Fuck Shane. He's next. Fuck you all. I don't know who the Shane is that he's referencing, but I think the I can't bring back the one you love must be about Michael Vieira,
Yeah.
her other husband or second husband, because she was obviously still very distraught about his death.
It's very sad.
Sarah's response to that came quickly. Michael, please stop. I am very sorry. I need you. Please don't hate me and please don't leave me. I will be the wife you deserve. Their messages continued late into the night, oscillating between hostility and pleas for forgiveness. At one point, Sara wrote, I am very sick and I love you. I can't argue anymore. I think I'm dying. So I know that was a lot of text messages and there were a lot more that I didn't read, but I think these give you a glimpse into kind of the chaos of those final weeks and Sarah's sort of mindset. Interestingly, like in the texts that I saw, there were very few responses from Michael.
I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, and I believe what I read is that these text messages were taken, they looked at both Michael's phone and Sarah's phone. So I don't believe that any of them were deleted because they would have both had to delete them. So I'm not sure if he just was very, like when she would get in this state, probably when she was drinking, she would get very aggressive, text him all these things. And I think he just didn't engage.
Yeah. That sometimes is the best way to handle someone's anger.
Yeah.
Well, especially when it's a rational anger. Like, it sounds like she was probably under the influence of something when she was sending the angriest of these texts.
Yeah, for sure. Sarah's mother later confirmed that in the days before her death, Sara told her that she did plan to leave Michael.
On Wednesday, May 20th, 2015, Sara and Michael spent much of the day at their attorney's office discussing the lawsuit they had filed against Northwood Academy, their daughter's school. That afternoon, Sara's mother, Barbara, picked up the girls from school and took Bishop to her piano lesson. Sara had told her mom that they were planning a family night that evening, a tradition that usually involved playing games, performing little shows, or making music together. She asked Barbara to have the girls home by 6 o'clock. Later that day, Sara called her mother from her car, where Michael was still inside the attorney's office. Barbara described her daughter as upset and angry during this call. The reason that Sara was upset had something to do with drug use, though it wasn't clear whether she meant Michael's or her own. She told her mother she wasn't going to live like this anymore. Sara said she had a plan. She would chaperone Bishop's field trip the next day, attend her 5th grade graduation on Friday, and then on Saturday morning she would take Bishop and leave Michael for good. She wanted Barbara to take control of the house, legally owned by her and her dad, after she left. After the meeting, Michael and Sara drove to Magnolia Cemetery to visit the grave of Sara's late husband, Michael Vieira. It was near the 8th anniversary of his death, a time of year that always hit Sara hard. His grave sat in a quiet section near the water, shaded by trees. Michael would later say that Sara became upset at the cemetery after learning that someone else would be buried between Vieira's plot and the water.
So I did read that there is no record of anyone being buried between his plot and the water, even after that. So
she just liked the idea of him having the view of the water.
Yeah, but what I'm saying though is that I think Michael was either making that up, or if there were plans to bury someone there, it changed because no one was ever buried between him and the water.
Okay. At some point afterward, the two stopped to have some drinks. According to Michael, they were singing and having a good time on the drive back towards home when Sara said she needed to use the bathroom. They were near their business, the Gold Standard, so Michael pulled in there. The front building had 2 restrooms, but neither Michael nor Sara had keys to them. There was another restroom in the warehouse behind the main building. But rather than unlocking the gate and going through, Michael said Sara decided to squeeze through the narrow 8-inch gap between the fence and the wall to relieve herself behind the building in broad daylight while wearing a sheath dress and stiletto heels. Friends would later testify that it wasn't unusual for Sara to urinate outside if she needed to, but Michael did have the keys to both the gate and the warehouse, so it seems like a surprising decision.
Let's talk a little bit more about the layout of this here, because I know it's confusing to try to describe it.
Mm-hmm.
But the driveway went like beside the building, and the driveway, there was a gate, a chain link fence with a gate across it. So the fence butted up against the side of the building, but there was like an 8-inch gap between the fence and the building. So Sara apparently, according to Michael, decided to squeeze through this gap rather than Michael, who had the keys to the gate, unlocking it, driving back there, letting her into the warehouse. It seems very strange.
At the top of the episode, we talked about how I first started investigating this episode. And I remember hearing that. I was so confused about it. We'll post some pictures. It makes it a little easier to visualize it. But what's the purpose of having a fence if someone can squeeze through it so easily? But I also read that she did it all the time. It was just easier for her to squeeze through. She wasn't a very big person. She could just squeeze through rather than having to unlock the gate.
That's what Michael's attorneys would later argue, and it may be the case, but it just still seems very strange to me. And I don't think the site was super secure. Like the chain link fence didn't have like barbed wire on top. So it was more of like a deterrent from someone, breaking in.
And most women would not choose to pee outside.
Yeah. And I didn't know what a sheath dress was, but it's a pretty kind of form-fitting.
I was surprised by your description of the sheath dress and stiletto heels.
It just seems like that would be really difficult to pee outside given that clothing combination as well.
Well, I think the sheath, it wasn't exactly a sheath. It was just a form-fitting dress.
Hmm.
I've seen pictures of it. So it wasn't like a sheath dress, I think kind of means like it's a longer dress. It was a shorter dress, but
Gotcha.
still. Michael told police he waited in the car. The length of that wait, however, changed with each telling. To one patrol officer, he said about 30 minutes. To Sarah's mother, he said he sat in the car, listened to 2 songs, and smoked a cigarette. To another relative, he said 7 or 8 minutes at most. At 7:13 p.m., Michael called 911. His voice was panicked. He told the dispatcher to hurry, that his wife had tried to kill herself by putting, quote, a hose around herself or something. He said he was performing CPR. Firefighters arrived first at 7:16 p.m., followed by law enforcement at 7:19 p.m. and EMTs at 7:21 p.m.
So that's really
So
quick.
within 10 minutes, you have all the authorities there.
I mean, even like 3 minutes after the beginning of the call was the time that the first responders
Yeah,
arrived.
that's
But
very
yeah,
quick.
everybody arrived pretty quickly.
They found Michael kneeling beside Sarah, who was lying on the concrete near the warehouse wall, her feet close to the chain link fence. As they approached, he shouted, "My wife, my wife, my wife, she's gone!" They asked him to step back so they could assess her. When they did, they noticed the end of the garden hose beneath her body. The hose ran up the fence, looped around a post, and back to the hose reel attached to the wall. A single blonde hair was stuck to it. It was immediately apparent that Sarah was beyond saving. Her skin was cold, her lips and face bluish purple, and lividity had already begun. Electrodes confirmed that there was no heartbeat. She was pronounced dead at the scene. The silver Toyota Prius the couple had been driving was parked about 20 feet away, facing the chain link fence. It was still daylight, clear, calm, with good visibility. Michael appeared distraught. He told first responders his wife had taken her own life. Officers noted that the right side of his lip was swollen and bleeding, which he said was from performing CPR. They also observed abrasions on his left arm and the knuckles of his left hand. Inside the car, investigators found a broken pair of sunglasses, an acrylic fingernail on the passenger floorboard, and Sarah's cell phone with a cracked screen. Sarah's autopsy revealed 5 separate areas of trauma to her neck. 5 separate areas?
Hmm.
Wow. Including 2 distinct furrows, or indentations, primarily located on the left side. They were positioned high on the neck, just below the jawbone. The ligature marks measured about 1 centimeter wide, or 3/8 of an inch. Beneath the surface, there were multiple hemorrhages in the deep, soft tissues of her neck, concentrated mostly on the right side. Her thyroid cartilage, the voice box, was fractured, though her hyoid bone remained intact. In addition to the neck injuries, Sarah had a bruise around her left eye, consistent with where her sunglasses had broken. She was missing the acrylic fingernail from her left pinky, the nail they found on the passenger floorboard. She also had abrasions on both knees and on the top of one foot. Her bladder contained about 180 milliliters of urine, enough to indicate that she had likely felt the need to relieve herself. If it was her intent when she went behind the building, she died before she had the chance. I guess I thought when you died, you relieved your bladder.
I'm guessing it depends on the circumstances of your death, but apparently not always.
Toxicology reports showed a blood alcohol concentration of 0.23, nearly 3 times the legal limit. Sarah also tested positive for cocaine and Xanax. The cause of death was determined to be asphyxia due to neck compression. The manner of death, however, was listed as undetermined. Oh, undetermined.
Yeah, it seems a little surprising, I guess, but
Yeah.
just all the other factors around this, the injuries to her, her eye, all the injuries on her neck, the broken pinky, like in the
Yeah, that
car.
really indicates some sort of fight to me.
Yeah, and she had abrasions on her legs and the top of
Mm-hmm.
one foot, which sounds sort of like one being dragged
Mm-hmm.
potentially across concrete. So I've read, and I didn't include a lot of this in my script, but I think there are a lot of allegations that the police kind of looked the other way in a lot of this. There were allegations that Michael had close relationships on the police force,
Mm-hmm.
but I wasn't able to really verify a
Mm-hmm.
lot of that. But it does make you wonder. It sort of seems like they kind of took his word and said, "Oh, she killed herself."
Was the Colucci name strong enough that they had like pull
I
with
think
the
so.
police? Okay.
That's sort of my impression.
We'll be back after a break.
Michael's account of that evening shifted repeatedly depending on who he was talking to and when. He told some people that Sara had hanged herself. Other times he said she must have tripped and accidentally caught herself in the hose. That just seems like such a bizarre explanation.
Yeah.
Oh, she tripped and caught and caused all these injuries, and it just makes no sense.
It makes no sense at all. I really had a hard time with that.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just impossible to think of someone like strangling themselves with a hose at their company where they work.
Right.
Like it just doesn't make sense.
No, not at all. At first, Michael claimed he hadn't been drinking that night, but later he admitted that he had, specifically Fireball whiskey. He also gave conflicting timelines. To police, he said he waited in the car for about 30 minutes before finding Sara. To her mother, he said he listened to 2 songs and smoked 1 cigarette. To another relative, it was 7 or 8 minutes tops. Those discrepancies were just the beginning. Michael's financial problems didn't end with Sara's death. In fact, they seemed to get worse. In June, barely 2 weeks after Sara died, a Somerville man filed a police report over a 2-carat diamond ring that Michael had agreed to sell on his behalf. According to the man, they had signed a contract in March for Michael to sell the ring, set in a 14-carat gold band, for $8,500. Michael sold it right before Sara's death, but never paid the owner. When the man tried to contact him, Michael dodged his calls. On June 5th, Michael wrote the man a check, post-dated for a few days later. When the man attempted to cash it, the check bounced. With no other recourse, he went to the police. On June 16th, Michael texted him, promising to pay in full soon. He said he was getting a new line of credit and asked for patience. Another customer accused Michael of pawning several items she had given him to repair, including her wedding and engagement rings. After repeated unanswered messages, she eventually tracked the jewelry down herself at a local pawn shop.
Oh boy.
Michael appeared increasingly desperate for money. He asked a bar owner friend if he could borrow $50,000. Around the same time, his stepfather Ivo filed a claim against him alleging that Michael owed him $700,000. Then, in December, things got even worse. Sara's family filed a wrongful death lawsuit against him. Michael also struggled to maintain a stable home for himself, his daughter Milan, and Sara's daughter Bishop. Because Michael had legally adopted her, he retained custody of her after Sara's death. For a couple of weeks, Michael and the girls stayed with Sara's parents, Barbara and Ronnie Moore. They eventually moved back into the Fox Bank house, which legally belonged to the Moores. Not long after they moved back there, Barbara stopped by and found Michael in the garage, rummaging through some papers. The encounter grew tense. At one point, Michael turned to her and asked, "Do you think I did something to Sara?" Barbara stared at him and replied evenly, "Did you?" Michael said nothing. Barbara stood, walked past him, and said, "You'd better find another place to live because I'm selling this house." And then she left. Michael and the girls moved in with his mother Doris and stepfather Ivo, but the arrangement didn't last long. Ivo resented having him there, especially after Michael began taking his cars without permission, including his prized Corvette. Ivo soon kicked him out. Still, the situation wasn't all bad for Michael. Ivo and Doris let him stay in the family's 3,000-square-foot beach house on Edisto Island. 2 months after Sara Colucci's death, the Berkeley County Sheriff's Office asked the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, better known as SLED.
You're really taking us back to the Murdaugh murders, aren't you?
Yeah, we sure are. They asked them to take over the investigation. It took SLED several months to sift through the evidence, but eventually investigators reached a clear conclusion. Sara's death was not a suicide. Here's a summary of the evidence that led them there. The hose that Michael claimed Sara had hanged herself with was a thick, rigid garden hose, not the soft, flexible kind. It would have been extremely difficult, if not impossible, to fashion into a noose capable of self-strangulation. When I heard that she died with a hose, I thought, okay, it was probably one of those soft, sort of flexible hoses, but I saw within the trial, there was a video of it. It's a very stiff, thick hose, which if you can picture that, I just can't imagine how you could hang yourself in a hose.
Or the other theory was that she accidentally hung herself, and that seemed just as unlikely to me.
Yeah. Even more telling, the ligature marks on Sara's neck were roughly 3/8 of an inch wide, While the hose itself was 1 inch in diameter, the forensic pathologist who conducted the autopsy did not believe that hose could have caused those marks or her death. The physical evidence also suggested a struggle. Sara's bruised left eye, her broken sunglasses, the torn acrylic fingernail found in the car, and Michael's bleeding lip all pointed to some kind of altercation. The abrasions on her knees and the top of her foot led investigators to believe that she had been dragged from the vehicle. There were also problems with Michael's timeline. First responders noted that Sara's body was cold to the touch, with lividity already setting in, signs that she had been dead for at least 30 minutes before help arrived. Yet firefighters reached the scene just 6 minutes after the start of Michael's 911 call. And there was the question of visibility. Michael claimed he had been sitting in the car facing the very spot where Sara supposedly hanged herself, just 20 to 25 feet away, on a clear evening, still daylight. Investigators found it implausible that he could have missed something so conspicuous. On top of that, Michael's version of events kept changing. The inconsistencies about how long he waited, whether or not he'd been drinking, and how Sara ended up behind the building were difficult to ignore.
Michael was not given a breathalyzer test at the scene.
I don't believe so, and I think we talked earlier about how I think the police sort of took his version of events. I don't think he was given a breathalyzer. I don't think he had to do a blood test. So yeah, none of that was done. Some of Sara's friends initially said they weren't shocked to hear that she had died by suicide. They knew she struggled with depression and could be impulsive, but when they learned how she had supposedly done it, none of them believed it. Sara cared deeply about how she presented herself to others, her appearance, her surroundings, her dignity. The idea that she would end her life in the back lot of a warehouse using a hose looped around a fence simply didn't fit who she was. SLED investigators agreed. On May 4th, 2016, nearly 1 year after Sara's death, Michael Colucci was formally charged with her murder. He was arrested but released on bond a few days later. He was placed under house arrest at the home of his mother and stepfather, Doris and Ivo, but he was not required to wear an ankle monitor, and 10 days after getting out, he moved back to the family's beach house on Edisto Island.
He was under house arrest, but not required to wear an ankle monitor?
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of crazy, isn't it?
Well, that also points to his entitlement.
Yeah, for sure. And strangely enough, he apparently left Bishop and Milan to remain living with Ivo and Doris when he went to go live on Edisto Island at this 3,000 square foot lake house. Bishop later talked about how difficult that was, saying that Doris especially wouldn't allow her to express any type of grief or feelings about her mother's death. Doris would tell Bishop to dry up her alligator tears. Bishop said, quote, "It's almost like after my mom passed away, it was like that was that, like she never existed."
Aww. So around the time of Michael's arrest, his stepfather Ivo's mental health began to decline. He became increasingly volatile and was eventually diagnosed with mild to moderate dementia. The stress surrounding Michael's legal troubles certainly didn't help. Ivo and Michael had never gotten along particularly well, and their relationship grew more strained while Michael was living with them under house arrest. 2 weeks after his release on bond, Michael called the Dorchester County Sheriff's Office to report that Ivo was not well. He said Ivo was under a doctor's care, but wasn't in his right mind. It's unclear why Michael made the call, perhaps to create a record in case police were later dispatched to the house, or to have an excuse for moving to Edisto Island. In August 2016, Ivo filed for divorce from Doris. This was right after Doris reportedly gave $750,000 to Michael for his legal defense fund. It didn't seem that the divorce was ever finalized, though. Several months later, in April 2017, North Charleston police were called to Ivo's store, the jewelry factory, after reports of gunfire. When officers arrived, Ivo emerged and said, "I shot her and the gun is inside." Inside the store, police found Doris dead from a gunshot to the head. She was 74. Heartbreakingly, their 12-year-old granddaughter was in the store at the time and witnessed the shooting. According to a later wrongful death lawsuit filed by Doris's estate, Ivo's behavior had been unraveling since his dementia diagnosis more than a year earlier. The suit alleged that he had regularly exhibited angry outbursts and engaged in arguments with Doris at the jewelry store, even threatening violence. Employees had witnessed several of these incidents. The fights often centered on money, Evo's mental health, and the mounting strain from Michael's murder case. After Evo killed Doris, Bishop was placed in the custody of her maternal grandparents, Barbara and Ronnie Moore. Evo's attorneys argued that because of his dementia, he was not competent to stand trial for Doris's killing. A judge agreed. Evo died 3 years later in 2020 at the Somerville Community Hospice House. The wrongful death suit was eventually settled for $700,000. A separate lawsuit filed on behalf of the granddaughter who witnessed the shooting settled for $760,000. Years later, Evo's daughter, Kim Colucci Lizzie, spoke with Mandy Matney on the True Sunlight podcast. Kim explained that Michael's upcoming trial and legal expenses had put enormous strain on her father, strain that had worsened his dementia and left him paranoid. She was heartbroken that her father's long-respected career was now overshadowed by that single horrific act. She said, "My dad loved her, and he would have never hurt her in a million years. People who knew them knew how much he loved her. But I think the pressure of everything that was going on, and feeling like they were taking from him everything he built, was just too much. I think he couldn't take it anymore, and that's why he shot her."
There's such a sad, sad chapter in this whole story.
It really is.
It's really heartbreaking. And I think I listened to the interview with his daughter, Kim Colucci Lizzie, and she speaks so highly of her dad. Like he really does seem like he was a very good man. Yeah. I know that's hard to square with him shooting his wife and killing her.
Well, I mean, he wasn't in his right mind when he shot her.
Yeah, for sure. So it is really sad that his legacy was, is basically now all about this.
Yeah. Michael Colucci's trial for the murder of his wife, Sara Lynn Colucci, began in November 2018, more than 3 years after her death. The prosecution argued that Michael strangled Sara using both of his hands and a ligature. Their case centered on 4 main pillars. First, the medical evidence contradicted the theory that Sara died by hanging. The hose in question was 1 inch thick, while the ligature marks on her neck were only 3/8 of an inch wide. There were multiple areas of trauma on her neck, including injuries consistent with manual strangulation. Second, Michael's behavior and conflicting statements raised suspicion. He gave varying accounts of what happened that evening. The condition of Sara's body, cold to the touch, with lividity already setting in, cast doubt on his timeline. The injury to his lip was inconsistent with his claim that it came from performing CPR. Medical experts testified that they had never seen such an injury result from resuscitation efforts. And after Sara's cremation, Michael failed to pick up her ashes for 6 months, something prosecutors portrayed as callous and indicative of guilt. Third, the state presented evidence of a violent struggle. The broken sunglasses, the torn fingernail, the bruise around Sara's eye, and the abrasions on her legs and foot, all signs of an altercation.
I was trying to picture this in my mind. Like I think he was driving the car and she was in the passenger seat, and the injury to her eye and the sunglasses were broken on the left side.
True. Yeah.
He had abrasions on his left knuckle. So you can just picture him, reaching across and punching her.
And fourth, the prosecution argued that Michael had a clear motive. The couple faced severe financial stress. Their relationship had grown increasingly hostile, as shown by their text messages. Both had been drinking heavily that day, and toxicology suggested recent cocaine use. The defense countered by insisting that Sara's death was either a tragic accident or a suicide, and that the state had failed to prove otherwise. They emphasized that the Berkeley County coroner had initially been unable to determine the manner of death, arguing that even trained professionals had struggled to reach a conclusion. Witnesses testified that there were no visible signs of violence in the Colucci's marriage. The defense said that Sara's depression, impulsivity, intoxication, and history of drug use made suicide a plausible explanation. Michael's injuries, they argued, were consistent with a distraught husband trying to save his wife, scraping his knuckles and arm on the pavement while moving her body and attempting CPR. As for the discrepancy between the hose's diameter and the narrow ligature marks, the defense claimed that only part of the hose needed to press against the skin to create those marks. It didn't require full contact to leave an impression. Michael's attorney, Andy Savage, known for his theatrical courtroom style, dramatically demonstrated his point by wrapping a hose around his own neck and tightening it until his face turned red, showing how he believed Sara could have done the same. Savage also played a video of his wife, who was roughly Sara's size, squeezing through the narrow gap between the fence and the building, wearing the same dress that Sara had worn. It was intended to counter the prosecution's argument that Sara couldn't have fit through and that Michael must have opened the gate, dragged her back, and strangled her.
Michael's attorney is Andy Savage guy. He almost came across as like a clown, but I think he was very effective as an attorney. But he did a lot of like these kind of outlandish sort of demonstrations in the courtroom. The video of him pulling this hose around his neck, it's really like...
That would be really jarring for the jury, I think.
Yeah.
And performative.
Yeah. Well, in the video too, like dressing his wife in the same dress that Sara was wearing that night, it served no purpose other than to be kind of inflammatory, I think, for the jury.
In the end, the jury was divided. Half believed the prosecution had failed to meet its burden of proof. The other half believed Michael Colucci had killed his wife. The deadlock forced the judge to declare a mistrial. Oh, gosh. In August 2019, while Michael Colucci was free on bond and awaiting a new trial, Charleston police were called to an apartment complex by his girlfriend, a woman he had begun dating not long after Sara's death. She told officers that a few days earlier, she and Michael had gotten into a physical altercation, during which he picked her up and threw her to the ground, breaking her arm. The injury required surgery. At the hospital, however, she told doctors that she had fallen down a flight of stairs. When police interviewed her, they weren't sure what to make of her story. She appeared confused and inconsistent about the details. She had a history of substance abuse and said she was on medication that made it difficult for her to think clearly. At first, she declined to press charges, but 3 months later, she changed her mind and decided she wanted to move forward. Even so, there is no record that Michael Colucci was ever charged or even interviewed by police regarding this incident.
So it's another example of, just speculating that he just somehow got by with these things. And it's really not cool. It took years before Michael Colucci's retrial was finally scheduled for June 2025. But just days before jury selection was set to begin, the defense filed a bombshell motion accusing the prosecution of a Brady violation, the failure to disclose evidence favorable to the defense. According to the motion, the state had been in possession of evidence for nearly a decade, indicating that Sara herself had expressed suicidal thoughts, specifically by hanging, in the days before her death. Sara's mother, Barbara Moore, had told SLED's lead investigator, David Owen, that she visited her daughter shortly before she died. When Barbara arrived, she found Sara surrounded by beer cans, sobbing uncontrollably. Sara told her that she wanted to hang herself, and that the only reason she hadn't done it was because of her children. Barbara said she was so alarmed at the time that she considered having Sara hospitalized. The account was never disclosed to the grand jury that indicted Michael Colucci. It was not shared with the defense before the first trial, and jurors and expert witnesses were never informed of it. The defense only learned of the statement in June 2025 as they prepared for the second trial. In a dramatic ruling on June 17, 2025, South Carolina Circuit Court Judge Roger Young sided with the defense. He wrote, "This court believes our courts should demand better from the state. To simply allow this trial to go forward with so many witnesses, such as pathologists, having been denied the opportunity to have this critical knowledge available to them when that material is fresh, amounts to a foul with a harm." Colucci's defense team asked the court to dismiss the indictment with prejudice, which would have barred the state from trying him again. Judge Young did dismiss the indictment, but without prejudice. He explained, "This is an unusual case, and it requires an unusual remedy. As of now, it's unclear whether Michael Colucci will be re-indicted or face another trial." By the way, this wasn't the first time investigator David Owen's credibility had been questioned in a high-profile case. During the Alec Murdaugh trial, Owen admitted that he gave incorrect information to a grand jury, telling them that the t-shirt Murdaugh wore the night his wife and son were killed was stained with human blood. Prosecutors later conceded that there was no human blood on the shirt. Do you remember that at all?
Yeah. I'm very angry right now.
Are you?
Furious, yeah.
Yeah, it really is very frustrating when things like this happen.
Yeah,
It's just a failure of the system.
absolutely.
I haven't been able to find out much about Michael's daughter, Providence Milan Colucci. She would be 20 or 21 now. The only thing I found is that she made the dean's list in the fall 2024 semester at University of South Carolina, Salkehatchie. She's been through a lot, and we certainly hope that she's doing well. I do have more of an update on Sarah's daughter, Bishop. She has also been through a lot. She lost her birth father, Michael Vieira, then her mother, Sara, and finally, the man who had adopted her, Michael Colucci. She hasn't spoken to him in years. When Bishop was in 8th grade, she started doing photography for fun. Now 22, she has her own photography business, taking pictures for her old school, Northwood Academy, as well as Cane Bay Living Magazine, and she does family photography as well. She got married in 2024 to a guy that she met 5 years earlier when she was 16. Bishop was interviewed on the Cup of Justice podcast in June 2025. She talked about her memories and how she was first told that her mother's death was an accident, then was later told by Michael that Sara had died by suicide. Once she was finally in Barbara and Ronnie Moore's custody, she started learning more about the case and now firmly believes that Michael Colucci killed her mom. In recent years, she's become much more active in pushing the Attorney General to get the case back before a grand jury and hopefully re-indict Michael Colucci. A few years ago, she got a tattoo. It's her mom's handwriting with the words, "Until then, love you, beautiful mama." It's from an elementary school yearbook, one of the last that her mom signed before she died. In the interview I listened, it sounds like Bishop is a wonderful person. And it sounds like she is really doing much better than you could expect after all that she's been through.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Rest in peace, Sara. I have a few questions that I would like to talk over with you.
Okay.
Do you think that there is any chance that Sara died by suicide?
No. Do
No
you?
chance. I mean, I don't believe that she did, but I'm
she's going to commit suicide while Michael is waiting in the car. That makes no sense.
right. No, I agree.
In broad daylight? No.
Yeah. I just want to say that when I go into these cases where it's a question of suicide versus being killed, I always try to be open-minded that when people do die by suicide, sometimes it doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
But I completely agree with you. In this case, there's no way I can get around the circumstances and believe that she did.
So maddening that he walks free among us.
It really is. Do you think that the inconsistencies in Michael's statements were signs of guilt, or could they be just the confusion of someone in shock?
No, I think he was definitely guilty, and I think he was, trying to weave this narrative.
Yeah. I think when he first told the police, I was sitting in the car for 30 minutes, he was trying to basically make it seem plausible that.
What man, I'm sorry, I'm just very angry now.
Yeah.
What man is going to sit in the car for 30 minutes and wait for their wife to do anything, right?
Yeah,
you would either be worried or you'd be like, oh, come on, what is taking you so long? It just doesn't make sense that he would have sat there for,
the whole thing doesn't make sense. And the fact that his car, literally 20 feet away on it wasn't dark yet. It was evening, but it was early evening. Wasn't
you're
yet
going to
dusk.
catch that out of the corner of your eye, whatever.
Yeah, the whole thing makes no sense at all. Do you think that the judge was right to dismiss the indictment because of the Brady violation, even though that means that Sara's death may never get a final verdict?
That's a tough one. I'm not really sure. What do you think?
I think it was from a legal perspective. I'm not a lawyer, but it seems like the right decision. You can't keep something like that from the defense.
Was that evidence a smoking gun, though?
No, definitely not a smoking gun, but potentially exculpatory. It would have given the defense something to say, look, she was talking about this a few days before. Mm-hmm. So even though it sucks, I think it really is going to not help in the search for justice for Sara.
Yeah.
But I do think legally it was the right call. And by the way, Bishop in her interview, she said the same thing. Like, she wants justice for her mom more than anything. And she thinks Michael killed Sara. But she also said, it really was the right call from a legal perspective. It shouldn't have been, all the information should be out there.
It's hard because I think it's horrible that he hasn't been retried yet. And I would just really like to see him be put to justice.
I would too. I really hope that they retry him. I wonder if they will, though, because, with the first trial ending in a hung jury and now with this coming out, I wonder if they're going to just drop it, which would really stink.
It does, because he's just a really, really icky guy.
He is a really icky guy, and he's out there walking free with nothing hanging over his head.
Well,
right
and his
now.
mom has passed away, and Evo has passed away, so he probably has more money. And I'm not sure what happened to the estate. I'm guessing you don't quite know either.
I don't know.
The estate would have been divided among
Evo had
five or six.
Evo had 5 kids of his own, and then Michael and his brother were his stepkids. So I'm not sure how that all played out, but he probably got some money out of it, I would think.
But he also had so many lawsuits against him that any money that he would have gotten from the estate might have just been
true. And a guy like Michael, just from what I've learned about him so far, he's going to keep getting in debt. Like, he's just, not very smart about the way, he was always in over his head.
Cocaine will do that too.
That's true. Yeah, that doesn't help.
Do you know what happened to the jewelry business? Is it still there?
I don't know. I know I looked on Google Maps at the Gold Standard where she died. That is closed down. It's still, the building is still there, but I think it's empty at this point.
So a quick Google tells me that there is still a Colucci's Jewelers, but that was Michael's store, wasn't it? Evo's store was the jewelry factory.
Yeah, but I suspect they were like related, because I think Evo still had an ownership stake. I think his daughter was involved. So I think maybe his daughter is running that now. I don't know.
Right. It doesn't mean that the family still owns it.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like maybe someone named Stefan is running it.
Okay. Maybe one of Evo's other children.
Yeah. And you can get cash for gold there still.
Oh, good to know. Good to know. I have one last question for you. When I was going through the text messages that Sara sent to Michael, in a couple of them, she blames him for turning her into something else. Like, she says, "I hope you're happy with the way you found me and the person you have molded me into with your controlling ways." And it brought up kind of a question in my mind of, like, how much responsibility does a partner bear for the ways their behavior changes the person that they're with? Like, can someone truly mold their partner into a different person, or do they just bring out what's already there?
I think that's a fair question. But yeah, I think people change for their partners all the time and allow themselves to be molded into something that they don't want to be. But I think in this case, it's about the addiction.
Yeah.
Sounds like Sara might have been on a better path until she met Michael. And that's when they started using together.
Yeah.
And that sounds like it was their biggest downfall.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. You mentioned earlier when we were off the air that you believed you had read that after her second husband, Michael Vieira, died, that she cleaned herself up.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't found that, but that makes sense to me, that the way that he died, being on like several drugs, that maybe she took that as an opportunity to try to get herself straight. And then with Michael, she ended up, being back drinking a lot and doing drugs. So it was probably a bad path.
When I was doing the initial research too, her family seemed, her parents seemed particularly loving and kind and supportive to her.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
buying her a house. I mean, that was, really generous.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I certainly hope that Michael Colucci is retried and there is justice for Sara.
Agreed. Before we go, I thought we could have some more boiled peanuts. Do you want some more boiled peanuts?
Those were so bad, and I'm not even being dramatic. They were really bad because they expanded in the shell.
Yeah, they were like,
I don't know what happened. They were really,
We're
really
not good.
gross.
We're probably going to anger some people in South Carolina, but I'm sure
I'm sure they're.
I'm sure the ones in the can are very different than
Yeah.
what you get when you buy them there. But that was pretty bad. I'm not going to make you eat more of those.
Okay, well, you can't make me do anything. I made you like a super nice dinner. I made spaghetti and meatballs and homemade French bread. So
Yeah.
you might not get it now.
Well, I sure hope you change your mind. I do have a little quiz for you
I
that
love a quiz.
I think our listeners will enjoy playing along with as well. If you weren't around in the 80s or 90s, though, you probably should just sign off now, because...
Oh, are you talking to me? Because I am a child. I was a child bride.
So what I've put together here are some sounds
Mm-hmm.
from iconic kind of sounds from the 80s and 90s, sound effects, things like that. And you have to tell me what these sounds are.
Okay.
All right.
The first one is going to be America Online.
How did you know that?
Are you serious?
Yes.
Welcome. You've got mail.
I was going to start you off with a softball, an easy
I mean,
one.
that was definitely a sound of
That's crazy that you knew that was the first one, though.
The second one. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, well, here is the second one. Yeah?
That was the dialing of a rotary phone.
That was.
And it's shocking how many times you would get a wrong number.
Oh, yeah.
know?
You get like 6 digits in, and then you do the wrong one. You're like, oh, God, I got to start over again. It's like a lot of work. All right, here's the next one. I didn't know this one.
Oh, I know this one.
Do you?
Yeah, it's Simon.
Yeah, Simon is it Simon or yeah?
I think it's just Simon.
You're right, it's just Simon. That's the game where you had to push the buttons.
It was huge. Like it was really big. It was like bigger than a dinner plate probably in its original.
Yeah,
and
it was like just a memory game, right? It would light up in a sequence, and you had to do the same thing.
Red, blue, green. Yeah.
All right, I think you're gonna recognize this one. Kind of related to the America Online.
We still have. Oh yeah. That was a modem, a dial-up modem.
Such a classic sound.
It took it took a while sometimes. I've been told. I don't know.
I know
I've never
you wouldn't
experienced it
because you're too young. But
right,
yes, it was pain. Those were painful days. But we didn't know it. We didn't know any different. So
we did though. We would get definitely annoyed.
I remember buying my first modem.
Yeah.
No one will likely get this, but I remember buying a 4800 baud modem because I was like, I would never need a faster modem than that. Like that's the fastest there is.
I don't know what that means.
I know. It was at the time. It was kind of fast. All right, here's the next one. I think you're gonna feel good about this one.
My favorite game of all time, Pac-Man.
Yes.
I don't know if it's Ms. Pac-Man.
I think that was Pac-Man. Yeah. All right, here's another one. Also one that I did not know, so I was unfamiliar with this.
I don't know it off the top of my head.
The Tamagotchi. Do you remember those?
Oh, our kids had those.
Yeah, I never had one when I was younger. I guess I was probably an adult by.
Yeah, I think you were an adult by then.
All right, here, this one I love. This is a classic.
Oh boy, this also took forever and a day. It's a dot matrix printer, right?
That's right. All right, one last one for you. This one's subtle, so you need to listen very hard, okay?
I think I'm too young for that one. I believe that is a VCR.
A VHS tape being popped in or, ejected from.
Well, thanks for making me feel like a dinosaur.
It is funny how some of those sounds can just like take
so
you
iconic,
back. Though.
Yeah.
They really are. Yeah, you didn't think about it at the time, but they really are. Well, I hope you all enjoyed that quiz as well. One last thing before we go. We sometimes talk about when people post on Reddit and they mention us, which we really appreciate so much when people mention
we do
Love, Marry, Kill on Reddit or Facebook or wherever you mention it. There was a post a couple of weeks ago that I thought was kind of funny. Somebody posted asking what true crime podcast music perfectly complements the subject matter. And somebody answered, I know co-host Tina doesn't like it, but I personally love the intro music for Love, Marry, Kill.
Well, it is true that I do not love our theme song, but I'm glad you guys do, and I'm glad you do.
I did see a comment from someone recently. I can't remember where it was, if it was email or somewhere else, that someone said they agreed with you and they really would love it if we reconsidered our theme music.
I would too, but it's okay. I believe in democracy and majority rules, and I think
you've tried.
I've tried, and I
gave
lost,
it your best shot,
and that's okay. But whenever I hear it, I'm like, oh, I cringe. I hate it. But I mean, I agree it does fit the theme of our show, but I feel like it doesn't fit me.
Yes, I understand.
Yeah. Well, we'd love to hear what you guys think about our episodes. If you're listening on Spotify right now, leave us a comment. We always love to read your comments. And I think you took off the filter. So if you want to say something mean, go for it. Yes. Before you would read through the comments and
I was moderating them, and but I never.
Like, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, go for it.
This weekend, while you were watching sports, I watched Nobody Wants This on Netflix with Kristen Bell and Adam Brody.
Yeah.
I am late to the game. Everyone has already watched this, but I really enjoyed it. But Kristen Bell and her sister are podcasters on the show.
Oh, really?
And someone was saying something to Kristen Bell about leaving her a negative review if they were mad at her. And she said, any interaction is engagement, and that is good for us.
Well, that's very philosophical.
Very evolved, right?
Well, I will say a year ago or so, somebody made a Reddit post about Love, Marry, Kill, and it was pretty negative. I actually responded to it, which I shouldn't have done. Anyway, It was very negative. But since then, a lot of people have responded to that post saying, hey, I found you guys because of this post, and I love you. So
that's great.
I think, there is some truth to that.
It's not going to all be positive, and that's fine. I have definitely become a lot more I don't know, what's the word?
Thick-skinned? Evolved.
No, I just feel like it's okay if not everyone loves your podcast.
Yeah, for sure.
Because people want different things out of a podcast.
Exactly.
It's totally fine. But anyway, we appreciate you guys so
do.
much for listening. We love you all, and we just are so grateful that you keep listening week after week. Please follow, subscribe, like, review. Find us on social media or send us an email at lovemarrykill@gmail.com. And don't forget about our YouTube channel that we always forget to promote.
Yes. And consider supporting us on patreon.com/lovemarrykill. We have one tier, $5 a month. And for that, you get early ad-free access plus a monthly bonus episode. Until next time.
Don't kill your husband.
And don't kill your wife.